Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at Shadowhaunter, but this time around in the Open Great League. I got insane IVs, I actually played the event quite a lot as well, so I guess it's kinda deserved. So you're gonna take a look at some fronties today. They didn't know that I was running this Pokemon, so that's kinda nice here. We're going to have some very cool games here actually coming up. Our team is a little bit more squishy and a little bit more spicy, as we can see here with the Arctibex. We have of course still the Gligar as like some kind of glue in between, but we don't really have the most amount of bulk here. And so also the video is a little bit shorter, even though like the amount of battles are kind of similar to normal videos, just because we don't have the bulk, but we have the damage, as you can see here. First one is going to already get knocked out here by a Shadow Ball, but we can still go for an Ice Punch afterwards against the opponent's Kommo-o, allowing us to even reach another Ice Punch in time with our Haunter, which is going to be amazing, as this is going to get the shield from the opponent. And now it's down to the Gligar getting to a charge move, and we can still get to the Aerial Ace before they even throw their charge move, which is amazing for us, as this is going to get the knockout and the opponent decides to forfeit. Moving on to the second game already, let's take a look what they're going to run here. They usually run some crazy spice, and we're going to see the Regirock in the lead. Here's the thing with Arctibex against Regirock. Regirock always going to outspeed you. They're going to get to their Stone Edge one turn before you can go for one Dragon Claw, and they also would be able to still survive a Dragon Claw from this range. This is exactly why I do what I'm doing here right now. Something that I rarely do is I'm not going to go for the bait, I'm going to go for the hard-hitting Avalanche and knock out the opponent immediately. So Arctibex is actually a really cool Pokemon. I might want to make a little bit more of a showcase of this Pokemon as well. Very, very strong Pokemon in the current meta, very underrated. You need a little bit of attack investment, by the way, on this Pokemon in order to get a breakpoint against Lickitung, but you really have to take a look at the IVs of this Pokemon, because you also need a bulk point against Lickitung. But here we're going to encounter it as well again, which is kind of funny, as Arctibex is now going to go up against the Gligar. They are forced to go for the Avalanche as well, which they do, so they're gonna get the knockout here, and we can swap back into our own Arctibex to get the full farm now against the opponent. As you're going to see here, they're still gonna have the Crocodile on the back. Of course, they're also running some very spicy Pokemon here, but as you can see, I'm going to let this move go through. I just want to give a little bit of a shout out to my final Pokemon, the Shadowhaunter. And yes, I could go for the Ice Punch as well, but why go for the Ice Punch if you can also go for the Shadow Ball, right? So we're just going to completely annihilate the final Pokemon and win the second game as well. This Pokemon itself is just really, really cool in general, but also what is really cool is Arctibex, because you're going to encounter this Pokemon again here. This time around in the lead, and as you're going to see here, my IVs are very high in terms of the attack, and as you can see, the opponent is going to get me a little bit faster into the yellow health, so they would win the mirror matchup here, but the opponent decides to swap out, which is actually really good for us, as they can go ahead and go for the Avalanche against the opponent, which will allow us to do some decent damage against them as well. We're going to be able to swap out into our Gligar, which now can go for one Aerial Ace and maybe even force another shield, as the opponent didn't throw their charge move yet. But they're going to let this move go through, knowing that they would be able to survive it. I can let this move go through as well, knowing that I will be able to survive it, as it's going to be just the Power Whip. I can get even more energy here against the opponent, and we're going to see now the Arctibex coming back in. We're going to use a shield against the opponent, which is going to definitely be helpful here, as it's going to be a Dragon Claw coming through. We can go for an Aerial Ace against them here as well to knock them out, most likely, as they're actually going to use a shield here. This is kind of fine for me. I'm totally okay with that. I'm going to sacrifice my own Arctibex here now. Now it's time for Haunter to hopefully sweep endgame. Let's see what they're going to run in the back. Can Haunter do something here? We already got rid of their normal type. Let's see, we can go for the farm down, and they're going to have the Sneasler in the back, and we're just going to go for the Ice Punch here. We don't really get to the Shadow Ball here, because the opponent has super effective damage against me, but as you can see, this is already enough. Moving on to the next game coming up, we're going to have Arctibex against Serperior in the lead. Great lead for us, but in general, great Pokemon to deal for us, because our entire team can play against the Serperior. Now we're going to get out the Sneasler, and I decide to swap out now into my Gligar. As the opponent doesn't throw the charge move in time, I will be able to go for an Aerial Ace and force the shield from them, as I now can let this next move go through. If they go for close combat, I knock them out with the Wing Attack that went through, but they don't, so I'm forced to use another shield here, or like the first shield here to be fair, which is going to get up the close combat, which is kind of nice. We will see the Sandslash coming in, and this is going to be the worst possible Pokemon to face for this team. Sandslash is really tricky for this team to deal with, but luckily my opponent decides to let this move go through, and so I can let this next move go through as well. And we're in a great spot, as we know that they're going to have the Serperior lurking there in the back. I can just go for the full farm down here with my Haunter, as the opponent decides to go ahead and go for a charge move. But we're still in a great spot, as I can go for the Ice Punch here, force a shield from the opponent, or take a lot of damage onto the opponent. They're going to decide to let this move go through, and this was definitely a mistake. take here, as we can just destroy the opponent with that Ice Punch. We're just gonna go for the full farm down here with our Dragon Breath, and now we're going to have exactly 2 Dragon Claws. That is all we need to knock out the opponent. This is going to be a very good game here, thanks to Arctibex plus Haunter. Moving on to the next game, let's see what they're going to run. We're going to have the Arctibex against a Greninja. This is a fairly favorable lead for us, and as you can see here, we can just stay in for a little bit. They're gonna go straight for the Night Slash, which is fine for me, and I kind of want to keep my Arctibex around for a little bit though, so I'm going to decide to go for the Dragon Claw myself here, which should get the shield against the opponent. They would do a lot of, it would do a lot of damage against the opponent, and I will be able to catch a move onto my Gligar, and I also get the extra fast move in, which now allows me to outspeed them to the next move, which is really important here, as now we can go for the Aerial Ace before they can go for the Hydro Cannon, forcing the opponent to use a shield. And I'm just going to go ahead and also I actually got to use the shield here against the opponent's Hydro Cannon, which is fine. As they're going to have the Clefable in the back, I can go for the Dig, and they can still reach their Media Mesh in time. This is not going to be here the Moonblast, is going to be just the Media Mesh, and we can barely survive it with just 1 HP left, allowing us to go for another charge move here and getting the opponent low. And this is actually kind of fortunate for us, as we can now go into our Haunter, and I want to get a full sweep here with my Haunter, so I decided to sacrifice my Arctibex. What is a smart idea? Do they have a normal time in the back? We're going to see very soon. Is the opponent going to reveal their final Pokemon right now? It's going to be the Medicham, allowing us to go for a Shadow Ball, but the opponent tried to snipe us here, which does not work out, so we can get actually a triple kill with Shadow Haunter in the Great League, which is just insane. So really cool game here, is going to be able to get the knockout against the opponent. Let's take a look at the next game coming up. Going to be here against, let's see what they're going to run. They're going to go ahead and have a Venusaur here. This is also a very good lead for us, which we get definitely going to take. But sadly, the Dugong going to be a little bit of a trickier Pokemon. And if they have Dugong as a Sales Swap, they might have something like another Ice type in the back. Maybe something like the Alolan Sandslash, which completely destroys his team here. But let's see what they're actually going to have here. Icy Wind coming through. This is definitely doing some decent damage, as I can swap back into my Haunter. And Haunter will go for a shield here against the opponent, allowing us to farm them all the way down. Icy Wind gonna get our attack dropped a little bit. But let's take a look here. We're going to be able to get up to nearly 2 Shadow Balls. And they're actually going to run the Azumarill in the back. So they wanted to get rid basically of answers for water type Pokemon, it seems like. And they're going to shield up the move. And I have to hope that they're going to let this move go through, because my team is not really the best against Azumarill. And we're going to see here that we can at least do some decent damage against them. I can still swap out into my Gligar, so I'm going to use a shield here. This is going to be okay for me, as it's going to be just the Ice Beam, and I can still try to win this game here. I can go for an Aerial Ace against the opponent. This is going to get the near knockout. They're going to let this move go through, and they're going to still have a shield left for the Venusaur, but I can still go for an Aerial Ace and force the final shield from the opponent. My game plan here is to win with my Gligar, so I decide to sacrifice my Arctibex, which works out amazingly here, as the opponent decides to go for a charge move. Friendly Plant does not knock me out. I don't get to the Dragon Claw on time, which is kind of sad, but I am still going to outspeed them for the Aerial Ace. And like this game is going to be ours as well. Even though we were encountering here some very tough backline, we still were able to come back from it. Moving on to the next game against Scraplord Dustin, also a fellow YouTuber, so definitely check out their channel. They do a lot of crazy challenges as well, so definitely something interesting for you to check out. We're going to encounter a full meta line here, at least until the final Pokemon. We're going to encounter here an Azumarill, and as said before, Azumarill is just a core breaker for my team. But it's not the only core breaker for my team. There's another one that's a little bit awkward to deal with for us, which you're going to see very soon as well, sadly. But here we're going to be able to go for the Dig against the opponent, getting them low, which is really good for me, because again, my entire team is kind of weak against the opponent's Azumarill, and I decide to use a shield here against the opponent's Ice Beam, as we can try to go for the full farm down. They're going to have the Carbink in the back, allowing us to go for a Dig, at least doing some super effective damage. But because I don't really want to get farmed down, I decide to swap out into my Haunter, and I can at least go for an Ice Punch here, which is going to actually go unshielded, which is kind of nice for us. So we're going to get the opponent very low. It's going to be a CMP tie on the rock side. So they're going to get the knockout here, and yes, Carbink is going to break both my lead as well as the Pokemon in the back. So it's a little bit awkward here, but I can at least still go for an Aerial Ace. I would have had the Dig here as well, but the opponent decides to let this move go through anyway, as their final Pokemon is going to be revealed very soon here. They're going to go for the Rock Side to knock me out here, and we're going to see the final Pokemon coming up next. We have basically got rid of both the Fairy type Pokemon. Now we have the Pedals in the back, and my game plan here is try to hope that they're going to go for the charge move here immediately and try to hope that they're going to try to catch a move onto the Azumarill, which works out well for me. So I still have a chance here. I can still go for 2 or 3 Dragon Claws, but the opponent makes a great play here, or like an interesting play at least, by no shielding this. And I actually would have knocked them out here if the game would have worked a little bit, because usually a 1-turn fast move sneaks through there. But still a good game there, and we can move on into the final game. Next game going to be against the Deoxys defense here. We're going to be able to swap out into a Gligar, as we're going to get hard-walled by the Alolan Sand Shrew, which is something that I'm also not really happy to see. It's actually, I think, a little bit worse than the Alolan Sand Slash, because you have now also super effective charge moves against my Haunter in the back. I'm still going to be able to survive one move, but they actually win CMP tile against me, so I'm forced to use a shield here to get rid of their final shield. Hopefully there, I guess, is going to be my best bet. And honestly, I maybe make a mistake here. I almost didn't make a mistake here, but I mean, I lost lead already, so I kind of want to get rid of my Arctibex as well. So I kind of want to hope that I can still win this game just with my Haunter alone. The opponent makes a great play here by just generating a ton of energy and just keeping the energy on this Pokemon. Well, now we can swap out into the Haunter to counter the opponent's Deoxys. I have to hope that I can just go for 5 fast moves now and then go for the charge move, but the opponent overfarmed by 1 fast move, which I didn't know. So they're going to be able to go for another Psycho Boost at this point of time. This final game of today's video is basically over already. I'm still going to try my best, but again, we can still go for another Ice Punch here. They're going to have a Licky in the back, which is kind of funny. Not a Licky Tongue, it's a Licky. Which is going to have access to the move Shadow Ball, which is kind of interesting. Might be something cool as well. But as you can see, we can just go for the Avalanche here to knock them out, but they're still going to have a lot of energy onto their Sandshrews, so they're going to be able to knock me out here, and this is going to be it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out the videos on the screen, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.